Within 72 hours, one of them would disappear forever. Neither knew it yet. The emergency call came at 11:43 p.m. on a Tuesday, cutting through Chicago's October rain like a knife. Ethan Cross wiped his hands on his work coveralls and glanced at his sleeping 10-year-old son Noah through the bedroom doorway. The kid's breathing was labored again, the rare Thornfield syndrome making every breath a battle his little body shouldn't have to fight. "Cross Plumbing, emergency service. Penthouse leak at Michigan Avenue. Water everywhere. Can you be here in 20? The voice was crisp, businesslike, expensive. Ethan grabbed his toolbox, kissed Noah's forehead, and left a note for Mrs. Chen next door. In Chicago's South Side, emergency plumbing calls paid triple rate. Money Noah desperately needed for his medication. 3 jobs kept them afloat. Barely. But every dollar counted when your child's life hung in the balance. The Bentley Tower stretched into the stormy sky like a glass monument to wealth. Ethan's rusted pickup truck looked like a toy in the circular driveway. He'd worked in places like this before. Different world, same problems. Rich or poor, everyone needed clean water. If you're enjoying this story so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button and subscribe for more inspiring tales. Your support helps me continue sharing these stories that might just touch someone who needs to hear them today. Thank you for being here. The private elevator required a keycard. The concierge, a thin man with suspicious eyes, escorted him up 43 floors without speaking. The penthouse door opened to reveal chaos, water cascading from the ceiling, pooling on Italian marble, destroying what looked like priceless art. And standing in the middle of it all, directing 2 frantic assistants with hand towels, was Isabel Ashford. 15 years collapsed into 15 seconds. The same auburn hair, now styled expensively. The same green eyes that once looked at him with love, now calculating and cold. The same scar on her left temple from the car accident their senior year, when they'd planned to run away together, before her father intervened. Before everything fell apart. Before his mother died because Phoenix Industries refused to manufacture the drug that could have saved her. "You," she whispered, her face draining of color. "Ma'am," he replied, his voice steady despite the earthquake in his chest. "I'm here about the plumbing." Her assistant, a nervous man with a tablet, looked between them. "Ms. Ashford, should I call a different service?" "No." Isabel's voice was sharp. "Fix it. Fast." Ethan set down his toolbox and surveyed the damage. Professional detachment. That's how he'd survived the last 15 years. The leak originated from the master bathroom, but this wasn't ordinary wear and tear. The pipes had been deliberately damaged, cut with precision tools. "This wasn't an accident," he said, kneeling beside the exposed piping. "Someone sabotaged your water system." Isabel dismissed her assistants with a wave. When they were alone, she stepped closer, her Louboutin heels clicking on wet marble. "How long have you been?" She gestured at his coveralls. "Since Mom died." The words came out harder than he intended. Since Phoenix Industries decided her life wasn't profitable enough to save. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and Ethan caught a glimpse of the caller ID. "Dear Doctor." She quickly declined the call, but not before he heard her sharp intake of breath. "I didn't know about your mother," Isabel said quietly. "I was in Europe when—" "Switzerland, right?" Ethan pulled out his wrench, the motion more aggressive than necessary. 6 months of studying abroad, right after graduation. She flinched. "How did you—" "Doesn't matter." He focused on the pipes, but his peripheral vision caught something that made him pause. On the side table, partially hidden by scattered papers, was a photograph. an elderly man standing beside a sign that read, Auschwitz Memorial. "Your grandfather?" he asked, nodding toward the picture. Isabel moved quickly, sliding papers over the photo. It's complicated." Her phone buzzed again. Same caller. This time she stepped into the kitchen to answer, speaking in rapid German. Ethan's medical school training, abandoned after his mother's death but never forgotten, included basic German. He caught fragments. Unternehmen, Kinder, gefährlich, enterprise, children, dangerous. When she returned, her hands were shaking. "Problem?" Ethan asked, tightening a joint with more force than necessary. "Business. It's always business." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You wouldn't understand." "Try me. I used to understand you pretty well." The silence stretched between them like a taut wire. Finally, she spoke. "I took over Phoenix Industries when my father died last year. It's not what I expected." Ethan stood, wiping his hands. The irony wasn't lost on him. The woman whose company had let his mother die was now running it, living in luxury, while his son fought for every breath. "Must be tough," he said without sympathy. "All those decisions about who lives and who dies." "It's not like that." Her voice cracked. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" He pulled out his phone, showed her a picture of Noah connected to a breathing machine. "Thornfield syndrome. Ultra rare. Phoenix developed a treatment 3 years ago, then shelved it. Not profitable enough for the 14 kids in America who need it." Isabel stared at the photo, her face going white. She swayed slightly, gripping the counter. "What did you say the syndrome was called?" "Thornfield syndrome. Why?" She was quiet for so long that Ethan thought she hadn't heard him. Then she walked to a locked cabinet, pulled out a thick file, and spread it across the granite countertop. Medical charts, laboratory results, and photographs of children, including one that looked remarkably like Noah. "These children," she whispered. "They all have Thornfield syndrome, and they all live within a 20-mile radius of our South Chicago facility." Ethan's blood ran cold. "What kind of facility?" "Chemical processing. We told the city it was for pharmaceutical research, but..." She pulled out another document, this one stamped with German text. "I found this in my father's safe after he died." The document was in German, but Ethan could make out enough. "Kinder Test Program" and "Genetische Modification." Children Testing Program. Genetic Modification. "Jesus Christ," Ethan breathed. "You're experimenting on kids." "Not me," Isabel's voice rose. "I didn't know. I've been trying to figure out what my father was doing, what the company is really involved in, but every time I get close..." Her phone rang again. "Dear Doctor." This time she answered, but kept it on speaker. "Guten Abend, Isabel." The voice was heavily accented, elderly, authoritative. "I trust you are reconsidering our offer." "I told you my answer, Heinrich." 72 hours, meine Liebe. That is all the time I can give you. The consortium grows impatient." The line went dead. Isabel's hands were shaking so badly she dropped the phone. "Who was that?" Ethan demanded. "Dr. Heinrich Müller. He worked with my grandfather. Before." She looked at the Auschwitz photograph, still partially visible under the papers. "He wants me to sign over Phoenix Industries to something called the Pharmaceutical Consortium. And if you don't," she met his eyes, "he'll kill me, and anyone who might interfere." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Outside, lightning illuminated the city below, and Ethan realized that everything, his life, Noah's life, even his past with Isabel, was about to change forever. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I think they're the ones who gave your son his disease. And I think I think they've been planning this for a very long time. The rain had intensified by the time Ethan finished the emergency repairs, but neither of them mentioned his leaving. Instead, they sat in Isabel's living room, her on the white leather sofa, him in a chair that probably cost more than his annual income, staring at the spread of documents between them. "Tell me about your mother," Isabel said quietly. Ethan's jaw tightened. Ovarian cancer, stage 4. Phoenix had developed a treatment. CDK inhibitor combined with immunotherapy. Clinical trials showed 90% remission rates, but we didn't manufacture it. Cost too much. Only affected a few thousand women worldwide. Not worth the investment. He leaned forward. She died 6 months after diagnosis. 38 years old. Isabel closed her eyes. I was getting my master's degree in Switzerland. Pharmaceutical engineering. I thought I was going to come back and help make the company better. What happened? My father called. Said there was a family emergency that I needed to stay in Europe. I didn't come home for 8 months. She opened her eyes. When I did, you were gone. Dropped out of medical school, moved away. I tried to find you. I was broke, homeless, working construction to pay for Mom's funeral. Ethan's voice was bitter. Medical school seemed like a joke after watching her die, because some boardroom decided her life wasn't worth their profit margin. Ethan, I need you to know, I didn't make that decision. I wasn't even in the company yet. But you are now. He gestured around the penthouse. How does it feel, running the machine that kills people? Instead of anger, her face showed something unexpected. Guilt and fear. That's why I can't sign over the company. These documents. She picked up a folder marked Project Thornfield. I think my grandfather started something during the war, something my father continued, and now they want me to finish it. Ethan felt the pieces clicking together in his mind, the same analytical thinking that had made him a promising medical student 15 years ago. Your grandfather was involved with Nazi medical experiments. It wasn't a question. Isabel nodded slowly. Otto Ashford wasn't his real name. It was Otto Weber, SS Oberfuhrer Otto Weber. He worked at Auschwitz under Dr. Mengele. The room went silent except for the rain against the windows. Ethan stared at her, processing the implications. After the war, he escaped to South America, then to the United States. Changed his name, started Phoenix Industries using stolen research from the concentration camps. Her voice was hollow. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know until I found his journals last month. And your father? Continued the work, but he wasn't evil like Otto. He thought he was improving the research, making it beneficial. The treatments Phoenix developed, they work because they're built on the suffering of Holocaust victims. Ethan stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Below, Chicago sprawled in the darkness, millions of people sleeping peacefully, while this conversation rewrote everything he thought he knew about good and evil. The Thornfield syndrome, he said slowly. It's not natural, is it? The children near our facility, their parents all worked there at some point. Chemical exposure during pregnancy. We created the disease, then developed treatments that barely keep the children alive. She was crying now. They're using these kids as long-term test subjects. The fury that rose in Ethan's chest was unlike anything he'd ever felt. Not just anger, rage so pure it felt like molten metal in his veins. My son, he whispered. You poisoned my son. I didn't. Your company poisoned my son. The shout echoed through the penthouse. In the silence that followed, they could hear his breathing, ragged and dangerous. Ethan, please, I'm trying to stop this. That's why Dr. Mueller wants the company, so they can expand the program, test on more children, perfect the treatments, and sell them to governments for military applications. Military? Super soldiers. Children whose genetics have been altered to be stronger, faster, immune to disease. She wiped her eyes. Your son, Noah, according to these files, he's showing signs of enhanced immune response. His body is fighting the syndrome, developing antibodies that shouldn't exist. Ethan's phone buzzed. Text message from Mrs. Chen. Noah's fever broke, sleeping peacefully. Very strange. His breathing is completely normal now. He showed Isabel the message. She stared at it, then pulled out a tablet, typing rapidly. I've been monitoring the children's conditions remotely. Look at this. The screen showed medical charts for 14 children, including Noah. All of them showed sudden improvements in the last 6 hours. It's impossible, Ethan breathed. Thornfield syndrome doesn't go into remission. Unless they've been given an antidote. Isabel's eyes widened. Someone's been treating these children without telling the parents. Her phone rang. Not Dr. Mueller this time. The display showed unknown number. Don't answer it, Ethan warned. She answered anyway. Hello? You have something that belongs to us. The voice was electronically distorted. The Weber girls' medical files. We know you've been sharing information. Who is this? You have 60 hours remaining. Sign the transfer documents, or the children's treatments stop. All 14 of them will die within a week. The line went dead. Ethan and Isabel stared at each other, the weight of the threat settling between them like a physical presence. Weber girl? Ethan asked. Isabel's face had gone ashen. That was my mother's maiden name, Rachel Weber. She pulled out another photograph from the folder, a young woman in a 1940s dress, standing beside a man in a doctor's coat. She was a Jewish medical researcher, brilliant, working on genetic therapies when the Nazis arrested her. And Otto Weber wasn't my grandfather. He was the SS officer who arrested my grandmother. Her voice was barely audible. He killed my real grandparents, took their research and somehow acquired me. The photograph slipped from her fingers, fluttering to the floor. In the image, the young woman's face was unmistakably similar to Isabel's. You're not Otto's granddaughter, Ethan realized. You're the descendant of his victims. My mother survived the experiments, barely. Otto took her when the camps were liberated, told the Americans she was his daughter, that her parents had died in the bombing. She was too traumatized to remember or speak for years. Isabel picked up the photograph with trembling hands. She grew up thinking Otto saved her, married his son, had me, and now they want you to sign over the company built on your grandmother's stolen research. The ultimate insult. The victim's descendant handing over her family's life work to the people who murdered them. Ethan sat back down, his anger now mixed with something more complex. The woman he'd hated for 15 years was as much a victim as anyone. More, perhaps. Why didn't your father stop it? He tried. That's why he's dead. She pulled out a medical examiner's report. Heart attack at 52. Perfectly healthy man, no risk factors. They killed him when he started asking too many questions. The pieces were falling into place now, creating a picture so horrific that Ethan's medical training couldn't quite accept it. The emergency call tonight, he said slowly. The sabotaged pipes. That wasn't random. No, they wanted you here. They know about our history, know you'd respond to a call from this address. She looked at him with dawning horror. They're using you to pressure me. Or using me to get to Noah. As if summoned by his words, his phone rang. Mrs. Chen. Mr. Cross, you need to come home. There are men here asking about Noah. They say they're from the hospital, but... The line went dead. Ethan was already moving, grabbing his tools, heading for the door. Isabel followed. I'm coming with you. The hell you are. They won't hurt Noah if I'm there. I'm too valuable to them. And if you're wrong? She pulled out a keychain. Not keys, but a small device that looked like a panic button. "I'm not helpless, Ethan. I've been preparing for this." They took her Bentley, faster than his pickup, and she could navigate the city's security systems with her phone. As they raced through Chicago's empty streets, Isabel made calls in rapid German, her voice urgent and commanding. "Who are you calling?" "People who owe me favors. People who want Otto Weber's network exposed as much as I do." She glanced at him and shot him. "I told you my time in Switzerland wasn't just school. I was working with a group that tracks Nazi war criminals and their descendants. Clue number 13, alternative identity. Hint, you're Mossad. Not Mossad, something older, more personal." She took a sharp turn onto his street. "When I found out the truth about my family, I reached out to Holocaust survivor groups. They connected me with people who've been hunting Otto's network for decades." They pulled up to Ethan's apartment building to find 3 black SUVs parked outside. Men in suits stood by the entrance, trying to look casual and failing. "Government?" Ethan asked. "Worse, private contractors." Isabel parked across the street. "They can't officially arrest us, but they can make us disappear." Ethan's apartment was on the 3rd floor, fire escape accessible. He'd climbed those metal stairs thousands of times, but never with this much at stake. "There's another way," Isabel said. "Noah's wearing a medical alert bracelet, right?" "Yeah, for his syndrome." "Why?" She pulled out her phone, opened an app he'd never seen before. The screen showed a map with a pulsing blue dot. "That's not a medical alert bracelet. It's a tracking and protection device. I had them placed on all 14 children 6 months ago when I started investigating the program." Clue number 6, Noah's bracelet revealed. The blue dot was moving, out of the building, heading west toward Lake Michigan. "They're taking him to the facility," Isabel said grimly. "Then that's where we're going." She grabbed his arm as he reached for the door handle. "Ethan, you need to understand something. If we do this, if we go after them, there's no going back. They'll never stop hunting us. They poisoned my son, and now they've kidnapped him. There was never any going back." She studied his face in the dashboard light, then nodded. "All right, but first, there's something you need to know about Noah, about why they want him specifically." "What?" "According to the medical files, he's not just responding to treatment. His blood contains antibodies that could revolutionize medicine, cure cancer, genetic diseases, maybe even aging itself." She met his eyes. "Your son isn't just a victim of their experiments. He might be the key to ending all disease forever." Twist Tier 3, Noah's true importance. The weight of that revelation settled over Ethan like a shroud. His son, the boy who couldn't breathe without machines, was potentially the most medically valuable person on Earth. And now he was in the hands of people who had spent 70 years perfecting the art of human experimentation. The blue dot on Isabel's phone continued moving toward the lake, toward whatever horrors awaited them at the Phoenix Industries facility. Ethan started the Bentley's engine. "Tell me everything," he said, "and tell me how we save him." As they drove through Chicago's industrial district toward Lake Michigan, Isabel explained the full scope of what they were facing. The Phoenix Industries facility wasn't just a pharmaceutical plant. It was a research complex built on the site of a former military installation, complete with underground laboratories that predated Otto Weber's arrival in America. "The government knew," she said, navigating toward the lakefront. "After the war, they made deals with Nazi scientists. Paperclip, they called it. Officially, it was for rocket technology and atomic research. Unofficially, they let war criminals continue their medical experiments. Otto was small-time compared to some of them, but he was smart. Instead of working directly for the military, he started his own company, gave them plausible deniability. The facility appeared ahead of them, a sprawling complex of concrete and steel, surrounded by razor wire and security lights. It looked more like a prison than a pharmaceutical plant. "How do we get inside?" Isabel pulled into an abandoned parking lot across from the main gate. "I still have access codes. But Ethan, once we're in there, we're going to see things that will haunt you forever. I've been haunted for 15 years already." She typed rapidly on her phone, and the security lights around the facility began flickering in a coordinated pattern. "That's the signal. My contacts are creating a diversion on the east side of the building. We have maybe 20 minutes before they figure out it's a decoy." They crossed the empty street, keeping to the shadows. Isabel's keycard worked on a service entrance, and they slipped inside. The corridors were sterile, white-walled, filled with the hum of ventilation systems and the distant sound of machinery. And something else. Children crying. Ethan's blood ran cold. "How many kids are in here?" "I don't know. The files only showed 14 in the Thornfield program, but..." She checked her phone. "Noah's signal is coming from sub-level 3. They found a service elevator. As they descended, Isabel continued her explanation. "The antibodies in Noah's blood. They're not natural. Someone's been giving him treatments, experimental drugs that are turning his immune system into something unprecedented." "Who?" "That's what we need to find out. But Ethan, if they've been successful, if they've actually created a universal cure for disease, they'll never let him go. He's worth more than the entire pharmaceutical industry." The elevator opened onto a corridor lined with observation windows. Through the glass, Ethan could see laboratory rooms filled with medical equipment, computer monitors, and children. Dozens of them, all connected to IV drips, all monitored by machines that beeped and hummed with electronic precision. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "They're not just studying the Thornfield children," Isabel realized. "They've expanded the program." They moved quickly down the corridor, checking room numbers against the tracker. Room 3B showed Noah's location. The door was locked, but Isabel's keycard worked here too. Inside, Noah lay on a medical bed, unconscious but breathing normally. His vitals on the monitor showed perfect health, better than perfect. Enhanced. But he wasn't alone. Dr. Heinrich Mueller stood beside the bed, an elderly man with steel-gray hair and the kind of pale blue eyes that had seen too much history. "Guten Abend," he said calmly. "Right on time." "Let him go." Ethan stepped forward, but Mueller raised a hand. "I think not. The boy is far too valuable. As are you, Dr. Cross." "I'm not a doctor anymore." "Ah, but you are." Ethan Cross, former Johns Hopkins medical student, specializing in pediatric genetics. Dropped out after your mother's death. But your research on inherited immune disorders was quite brilliant. Mueller smiled coldly. "Did you really think it was coincidence that your son developed Thornfield syndrome? That you ended up working as a plumber in exactly the right neighborhood to meet Ms. Ashford again?" The truth hit Ethan like a physical blow. "You orchestrated all of this. For 15 years, mein Freund. Your mother's death, your dropout from medical school, your meeting Isabel tonight. All carefully planned." Mueller gestured to Noah. "We needed someone with your specific genetic markers to father a child, and someone with your medical knowledge to eventually help us understand what we had created. You're insane. I am thorough. Your son is not just immune to disease, Dr. Cross. His blood can make others immune as well. A single transfusion from Noah could cure cancer, HIV, genetic disorders, even aging." Mueller's eyes gleamed. "He is the future of human evolution." Isabel stepped forward, her face pale but determined. "Heinrich, you can't do this. These are children, not laboratory rats. Children who will grow up to be gods among men. Is that not worth some temporary discomfort?" On the bed, Noah stirred. His eyes opened, unfocused, but aware. "Dad," he whispered. The sound of his son's voice broke something inside Ethan. All the rage, all the helplessness, all the years of watching Noah struggle to breathe. It crystallized into a single moment of absolute clarity. He was not leaving this room without his son. Whatever it took. Whatever it cost. The countdown had begun, and in 60 hours, everything they'd ever known about love, sacrifice, and the price of human life would change forever. The standoff in room 3B lasted exactly 37 seconds. Dr. Mueller reached for a syringe filled with clear liquid. Ethan lunged forward. Isabel hit the emergency alarm, and suddenly the underground facility erupted in chaos. Klaxons wailing, red lights flashing, automated doors slamming shut. But Noah was awake now, sitting up on the medical bed, with the kind of alertness that shouldn't have been possible after sedation. "Dad, who are these people?" His voice was stronger than Ethan had heard in months. "And why do I feel different?" Mueller smiled, even as security guards poured into the corridor outside. "The boy is experiencing the full activation of his enhanced immune system. Remarkable, isn't it? 15 years of careful genetic manipulation, finally coming to fruition." "What are you talking about?" Ethan demanded. But even as he spoke, pieces were clicking together in his mind. Noah's sudden improvements, the perfect vitals, the way his breathing had normalized overnight. "Your son is not merely recovering from Thornfield syndrome, Dr. Cross. He never had it." Mueller's pale eyes gleamed with scientific pride. What he had was a carefully controlled suppression of his true genetic potential. "Tonight, we stopped administering the inhibitor drugs." The room seemed to spin around Ethan. "Inhibitor drugs? The medication you've been giving him for years. You thought it was treating his disease, but it was actually preventing his enhanced genetics from manifesting." Mueller gestured toward Noah, who was now standing beside the bed, moving with fluid grace that seemed almost superhuman. "Behold the first successful product of the Weber Protocol." Twist Tier 4, Noah's true nature. Isabel's face had gone white. "Weber Protocol? Named after your grandmother, my dear. Dr. Rachel Weber's research into genetic immunity was decades ahead of its time. We've spent 70 years perfecting her work." Mueller pulled out a tablet, showing complex genetic sequences. "Noah carries modified DNA that makes him effectively immortal. No disease can touch him. No poison can harm him. His blood can cure any ailment known to man." "You're lying," Ethan whispered, but Noah was looking at his hands with wonder. "I can see better, Dad. Hear better. Even my thoughts feel clearer." "The boy's IQ has increased by approximately 50 points in the last 6 hours," Mueller continued clinically. "His physical strength will triple within the week. He will never age past his current biological state." The security guards were trying to override the door locks, their voices urgent in the corridor. Isabel was typing frantically on her phone. "My contacts are jamming their communications, but we don't have long," she said. Then she looked at Mueller with dawning horror. "If Noah is the first successful subject, how many others have you created?" "Sadly, only one. The process has a 98% failure rate. We've tested it on over 300 children in the past 5 years." Mueller's casual tone made the words even more monstrous. "Noah is our sole success." 300 children, Ethan repeated, the number hitting him like a physical blow. "Most died within weeks. A few survived months before organ failure. Noah is unique." The door exploded inward, not from security guards, but from a breach charge. Through the smoke came figures in tactical gear, not Phoenix security, but someone else entirely. "Mossad," Isabel breathed with relief. The lead operative removed his helmet, revealing a weathered face and kind eyes. "Ms. Ashford, we received your signal," Jacob, thank God. We need to get these people out of here. But Muller was laughing. Too late, I'm afraid. You see, the consortium never planned to keep the boy here. He pressed a button on his tablet, and the facility's public address system crackled to life with a voice Ethan recognized from the phone call earlier. Attention! Phoenix Industries is now under consortium control. All research subjects are being relocated to international waters. Any interference will result in the immediate termination of all test subjects. Through the observation windows, they could see the other children being wheeled out on gurneys, still connected to their medical equipment. Dozens of kids, all unconscious, all being loaded onto transport vehicles. Where are they taking them? Isabel demanded. Muller shrugged. Research vessel in the Atlantic. International waters, no jurisdiction, no interference. The perfect laboratory. Noah stepped forward, and Ethan was startled by how different his son looked. Taller somehow, more confident, with an intelligence in his eyes that seemed far older than 10 years. He's not taking me anywhere, Noah said quietly. And he's not taking them either. Mein kleiner Übermensch, Muller chuckled. You think your enhanced abilities make you invincible? You are still a child. Maybe, but I'm not alone. Noah pulled something from his pocket, the medical bracelet Isabel had given him. But now Ethan could see it wasn't just a tracker. It was some kind of communication device, and it was blinking rapidly. What is that? Ethan asked. Isabel's eyes widened. Noah, how long have you been awake? How long have you been listening? Since yesterday. The drugs weren't working anymore, but I pretended they were because I wanted to understand what was happening to me. Noah looked directly at Muller. And I've been recording everything. The boy held up the bracelet, and suddenly Ethan realized what he was seeing. Not just a medical device, but a sophisticated recording and transmission system. Every conversation. Every experiment. Every child that was brought in here, Noah continued. It's all been transmitted to a secure server that my new friend Jacob helped set up. Jacob smiled grimly. The entire contents will be released to every major news organization in the world in exactly 18 minutes. Unless, of course, Dr. Mueller would like to reconsider his current course of action. But Mueller wasn't looking defeated. He was looking pleased. You think exposing us will stop anything? The consortium has resources beyond your imagination. Governments, military contracts, unlimited funding. He gestured around the facility. This is just one small research center. We have dozens of others around the world. Then we'll expose those too, Isabel said fiercely. Will you? Even if it means destroying your precious Noah? The room fell silent, except for the distant sound of vehicles starting up outside. What do you mean? Ethan asked, though he dreaded the answer. Mueller's smile was purely malevolent. The genetic modifications we made to Noah are not stable. Without regular treatments that only we can provide, his enhanced immune system will turn against itself. He has perhaps 6 months before his body begins to consume its own organs. Twist Tier 5, the ultimate choice. You're lying. But even as Ethan said it, he could see the truth in Mueller's eyes. The inhibitor drugs weren't just suppressing his abilities. They were keeping his genetic modifications from killing him. Now that he's fully activated, the countdown has begun. Mueller checked his watch. Sign over Phoenix Industries to the consortium, Ms. Ashford, and we'll provide Noah with the treatments he needs to survive. Refuse, and watch the boy you claim to love die in agony. Isabel looked at Noah, then at Ethan, then at the children being loaded onto trucks outside. Her face showed a battle between love and conscience that was tearing her apart. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't, but you know with certainty what happens if you refuse. Jacob stepped forward. There has to be another way. If we can analyze Noah's blood, understand the modifications. The process took us 70 years to perfect, Mueller interrupted. You have 6 months. Even with all your resources, you cannot reverse what we have done. Noah walked over to Isabel, took her hand. It's okay. I understand what you have to do. No. The word came out of Isabel like a physical pain. I won't sacrifice hundreds of children for one, even if that one is… She couldn't finish the sentence, but Ethan could see what it cost her. Even if that one is the boy you love like your own son, he said quietly. She nodded, tears streaming down her face, but Noah smiled. Not the smile of a 10-year-old, but something older and wiser. What if there was a third option? He asked. Everyone stared at him. I've been thinking about this all night. About my blood. About what it can do. About what Dr. Mueller said. Noah looked directly at the elderly Nazi. You said my blood can cure any disease, make people immune to aging and sickness. Correct. Then why do you need me alive? Why not just take all my blood, synthesize it, and create your treatments that way? Mueller's face changed, becoming suddenly wary. The proteins are too complex. They break down rapidly outside the living body. We need a continuous source. Or, Noah said thoughtfully, you need me to believe that, so I'll cooperate. He walked over to one of the medical computers, began typing with the kind of speed and precision that shouldn't have been possible for a child. Data scrolled across the screen. Genetic sequences, protein structures, synthesis pathways. I can read all of this now, Noah said conversationally. One of the side effects of your modifications. Enhanced intelligence includes perfect memory and rapid processing of complex information. Ethan watched his son navigate through databases that would challenge a PhD geneticist. And what I see here is that you've been lying about the instability. My genetic modifications aren't breaking down. They're evolving, getting stronger. Noah turned to face Mueller, and his eyes held an intelligence that made Ethan's breath catch. You don't want to cure me. You want to control me. Mueller's mask of calm finally cracked. You are a child playing with forces beyond your comprehension. I'm a child with the genetic knowledge of 70 years of research programmed into my DNA, Noah corrected. And I know something you don't. What? Noah smiled, and for a moment he looked exactly like the 10-year-old boy Ethan remembered tucking into bed just hours earlier. I know how to synthesize my blood, and I know how to make the formula public. He pressed a key on the computer, and suddenly every screen in the facility lit up with the same display. Complex genetic sequences, protein structures, and manufacturing instructions. I've just uploaded the complete synthesis process for universal immunity serum to every computer in this building, and thanks to Jacob's network, it's being transmitted to research institutions around the world right now. Final resolution. Twist. Public revelation. Mueller lunged for the computer, but it was too late. The data was already streaming out through multiple channels. You've doomed us all, he screamed. The consortium will never allow this information to remain public. Then I guess they'll have to fight the entire world, Isabel said, pulling out her phone. Because in addition to the genetic data, we're also releasing every document about Phoenix Industries, the Weber Protocol, the consortium, and 70 years of medical crimes. She showed them the screen, live feeds from news organizations around the globe, all displaying the same information. The story was already breaking on every major network. Nazi medical experiments exposed, she read from the headlines. Miracle cure made public. Pharmaceutical conspiracy revealed. Through the observation windows, they could see the transport vehicles stopping, security guards looking confused as their radio communications filled with news reports. Jacob's team was already moving, securing the children, calling for medical teams. But Mueller wasn't finished. With the desperate fury of a man watching his life's work collapse, he pulled out a gun. "If I cannot have the boy, then no one can." He aimed at Noah, but Ethan was already moving, putting himself between the weapon and his son. The gunshot was deafeningly loud in the confined space, but it was Muller who fell, his weapon clattering across the floor. Behind him, Isabel lowered a pistol that Jakob had quietly handed her moments earlier. "For my grandmother," she said softly. "For all the children. For everyone whose lives you destroyed." 6 months later, Ethan stood in the main laboratory of the Weber Cross Medical Foundation, watching Noah work alongside a team of the world's leading geneticists. The boy, though he looked more like a teenager now, thanks to his enhanced development, was explaining protein synthesis to Nobel Prize winners as if it were elementary mathematics. "Dad, we've had another breakthrough," Noah called out excitedly. "The universal immunity serum is testing perfectly in Phase 3 trials. We should be able to start global distribution within the year." Ethan smiled, still amazed by what his son had become. Not just the genetic modifications, but the person he was choosing to be with those abilities. Instead of becoming the Übermensch that Muller had envisioned, Noah had become something better. A healer, a teacher, a bridge between enhanced humanity and the rest of the world. Isabel appeared beside him, carrying a tablet full of reports from their facilities around the globe. "The Phoenix Industries prosecution is moving forward," she said. "The consortium is being dismantled piece by piece, and the last of the children from their experiments have been given clean bills of health." "And us?" Ethan asked, taking her hand. She smiled, the same smile that had captured his heart 20 years earlier, now tempered with wisdom and shared purpose. "Us? We're changing the world, one child at a time." They'd been married 3 months earlier, in a small ceremony at the Chicago Children's Hospital. Noah had walked Isabel down the aisle, partly because he'd asked to, partly because his enhanced genetics had made him nearly 6 feet tall, despite being only 11 years old. "I have something for you," Isabel said, reaching into her jacket pocket. She pulled out a small box, not a jewelry box, but something that looked more scientific. "What is it?" "The original vial of Rachel Weber's blood, the one Otto stole from Auschwitz." She opened the box to reveal a small glass tube filled with dark liquid. "I found it in his personal safe last week." Ethan stared at the vial. "After all these years, I thought about keeping it, about testing it, about trying to learn more from it." Isabel closed the box, but then I realized, we don't need it. We have something better. She gestured toward Noah, who was now demonstrating something on a whiteboard to a group of fascinated scientists. "We have the future." That evening, they held a press conference to announce the next phase of their work. The Weber Cross Foundation had raised over $2 billion in its first 6 months, funded by governments and individuals who understood the magnitude of what they were accomplishing. Noah stepped up to the podium with the confidence of someone far older than his years. "6 months ago, I was a sick child who couldn't breathe without machines," he began, his voice carrying easily through the packed auditorium. "Today, I'm healthy not just because of genetic modifications, but because people chose to put children's lives above profit margins." Applause filled the room, but Noah raised his hand for quiet. "The serum that can cure disease, that can extend human life, that can eliminate genetic disorders, all of that research has been made public. No one owns it. No corporation can hoard it. No government can weaponize it." He paused, looking directly into the cameras. "It belongs to humanity." More applause, but Noah wasn't finished. "But this isn't just about medicine. It's about choice. Every child who was used as a test subject in the Phoenix program, every person who died because a company decided their life wasn't profitable enough, they deserve to be remembered not just as victims, but as the reason we chose to do better." He gestured toward a display showing photographs of children, the ones who had survived Phoenix Industries, and the ones who hadn't. "We name our treatments after them. We name our research centers after them. We make sure their suffering wasn't meaningless by ensuring it never happens again." When the press conference ended, the three of them walked out into the Chicago night. Noah ran ahead, moving with the enhanced speed and grace of his modifications, but still very much a child in the way he chased fallen leaves and jumped over puddles. "Do you ever regret it?" Ethan asked Isabel. "Giving up the company, the money, the life you had before?" She considered the question seriously. "I regret that it took me so long to find the courage to do the right thing. I regret that children suffered while I tried to figure out how to stop it." She watched Noah attempt to catch a leaf that was blowing just out of reach. "But giving up wealth to save lives? No, I don't regret that for a second." Noah finally caught his leaf, then ran back to them with a grin that was pure joy. "Can we get ice cream?" he asked. "My enhanced metabolism means I can eat as much as I want without getting sick." "That's not how enhanced metabolism works," Ethan laughed. "Are you sure? Because I think we should test that theory. For science." They found an all-night ice cream shop where Noah proceeded to order one of everything, while Isabel and Ethan shared a simple vanilla cone. "There's one more thing," Isabel said quietly, while Noah was debating between chocolate chip cookie dough and pralines and cream. "The will." "What will?" "My grandfather's, Otto's $50 million inheritance. It wasn't actually $50 million. She pulled out a legal document. "It was a testing mechanism. Everyone who tried to claim it, everyone who showed interest in it, everyone who investigated it, he had them monitored. A trap, a way to identify people who might threaten his work or continue it. The real inheritance was something else entirely." She handed him the document. "He left everything, the company, the research, the facilities, to whoever proved they would use it to help people instead of harm them." Ethan read the legal language, dense and complex, but the meaning was clear. "You inherited Phoenix Industries legitimately. You didn't have to sign it over to anyone." "I know, but I'm glad I didn't know that at the time. If I'd known I had legal control, I might have tried to reform the company instead of exposing it." She smiled. "Sometimes the right choice is only possible when you think you don't have any other options." Noah appeared beside their table, carrying a bowl that contained at least 6 different flavors of ice cream. "This is my hypothesis," he announced solemnly. "Enhanced genetic modifications allow for optimal ice cream consumption without negative consequences." "And if you're wrong," Ethan asked, "then we'll have learned something valuable about the limitations of genetic enhancement." Noah took a large spoonful. "Science requires sacrifice." Watching his son, enhanced, brilliant, powerful enough to change the world, but still fundamentally the same loving, curious boy he'd always been, Ethan felt something he hadn't experienced in 15 years. Complete happiness, not the temporary relief of solving a problem or the brief satisfaction of a job well done, but the deep, lasting joy of knowing that everything they'd been through had led to exactly where they were meant to be. "I love you both," he said quietly. Isabel squeezed his hand. "I love you too." Noah looked up from his ice cream, his enhanced intelligence momentarily set aside for simple, childlike affection. "I love you guys too, even if Dad makes terrible jokes about plumbing and Isabel still has nightmares about board meetings." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, 3 people who had found their way back to each other through circumstances that should have destroyed them, but had somehow made them stronger. Outside, Chicago hummed with its usual late-night energy. People working night shifts, students studying in coffee shops, Families like theirs creating memories that would last lifetimes. But now, it was a world where a child's illness didn't have to be a death sentence, where profit margins couldn't override human compassion, where the victims of past atrocities had become the architects of future hope. Noah finished his ice cream and leaned back in his chair with a satisfied sigh. "So, what do we do tomorrow?" he asked. Isabel pulled out her tablet, showing them the day's schedule. "Tomorrow we have meetings with researchers in Tokyo, a video conference with the UN Health Assembly, and 3 more pharmaceutical companies that want to partner with the foundation." "And after that?" Noah asked. Ethan smiled. "After that, we go home. We help more kids. We make the world a little bit better than it was today." "Sounds perfect," Noah said. And for the first time in either of their lives, Ethan and Isabel found that they completely agreed. The countdown that had begun 72 hours earlier was over. The future had begun. Epilogue. 1 year later. The Weber Cross Medical Foundation's annual report made headlines around the world. Universal immunity serum reaches 100 million people. Genetic diseases eliminated in 17 countries. Child mortality from preventable illness drops to historic lows. But the statistic that mattered most to Ethan was smaller, more personal. Noah had grown 2 more inches, learned to speak 4 languages fluently, and still insisted on bedtime stories, though now he preferred scientific journals to fairy tales. Isabel was pregnant. They'd discovered it during routine medical testing, part of the ongoing research into how Noah's genetic modifications might affect people around him. The baby was healthy, normal, unenhanced, exactly what they'd hoped for. 2 kids, Ethan mused, sitting in their new home's backyard, while Noah taught himself quantum physics and Isabel napped in a hammock. One who could probably cure cancer by next Tuesday, and one who'll be perfectly, wonderfully ordinary. "I heard that," Isabel said without opening her eyes. "And ordinary isn't the word I'd use for any child raised by us." Noah looked up from his textbook. "Dad, do you think the baby will be disappointed that they won't have enhanced abilities?" "Do you wish you were ordinary?" Ethan asked. Noah considered this seriously. "Sometimes. It would be nice not to understand how damaged the world is, but then I remember that understanding damage is the first step to fixing it." He went back to his book, then added quietly, "Besides, I think being loved is probably more important than being enhanced." Later that night, after Noah had gone to bed, still requiring exactly the same amount of sleep as any other 12-year-old, despite his modifications, Ethan and Isabel sat on their front porch, watching the city lights twinkle in the distance. "Any regrets?" he asked, a question that had become their evening ritual. "Just one," she said. "I regret that it took a Nazi conspiracy and genetic experimentation to bring us back together. Seems like there should have been an easier way. Maybe there was, and we just weren't ready for it 15 years ago. Maybe." She leaned against his shoulder. "Though I have to admit, our love story is definitely unique. How we met. She was a secret Holocaust descendant. I was an undercover doctor, and our son turned out to be genetically modified. That's terrible, but accurate." They sat in comfortable silence, 2 people who had learned that love wasn't just about finding each other, but about choosing each other every day, even when the world tried to tear them apart. Inside, Noah was probably still reading, his enhanced mind processing information at speeds that would amaze scientists and terrify philosophers. Their unborn child was growing normally, blissfully unaware of the extraordinary family they were joining. And somewhere around the world, in hospitals and research centers, bearing the names of children who had died too young, people were being cured of diseases that had once been death sentences. It wasn't the future any of them had planned. It was better. The notification chimed on Ethan's phone as he walked through the halls of the Weber Cross Research Institute in Geneva. Another breakthrough, this time from their team in Mumbai, who had successfully used NOAA's synthesized immunity factors to eliminate tuberculosis in an entire region. "Dad, you're going to want to see this," came a voice from behind him. Ethan turned to find Noah, now 17, but looking closer to 25, striding down the corridor with the easy confidence that came from literally having the world's medical knowledge encoded in his DNA. In his hands was a tablet displaying genetic sequences that scrolled faster than any normal human could read. "What am I looking at? The next evolution." Noah's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We've figured out how to reverse engineer the enhancement process, not to create more enhanced humans, but to give people the choice." Ethan felt his breath catch. Choice? Someone diagnosed with terminal cancer could temporarily boost their immune system to enhanced levels, fight off the disease, then return to baseline normal. Noah pulled up another screen. Controlled, temporary, voluntary enhancement. No more permanent modifications, no more children used as test subjects. They walked together toward the main conference room, where Isabel was addressing a joint session of medical researchers from 43 countries. Through the glass doors, Ethan could see her gesturing toward a holographic display of global health statistics. "Your mom's probably announcing the African Initiative results," Ethan said. "Better than that," Noah grinned. "She's announcing that we've officially eliminated malaria from 12 countries. The enhanced mosquito targeting system worked." As they entered the conference room, Isabel caught sight of them and smiled. The same smile that had captivated Ethan 20 years ago, now deepened by shared purpose and the laugh lines that came from raising two remarkable children. Their daughter Emma, now 4 years old and blissfully normal, was sitting in the front row, carefully coloring in a medical textbook that Noah had illustrated for her with cartoon characters, representing different cell types. She waved enthusiastically when she saw them. "Daddy, Noah, Mama's talking about the mosquito soldiers." Several of the world's most distinguished medical researchers chuckled at her enthusiasm. Emma had become something of a mascot for the foundation, a reminder that enhanced abilities weren't necessary for boundless curiosity and joy. "The final phase of our global health initiative," Isabel was saying to the assembly, "isn't about creating superhuman children or miraculous cures. It's about ensuring that every child, enhanced or not, has the same opportunity to grow up healthy, educated, and loved." After the presentation, the family walked through Geneva's Old Town, past ancient churches and modern research facilities, past monuments to human achievement and memorials to human suffering. "I've been thinking," Noah said as they stopped at a cafe overlooking Lake Geneva, "about what comes next." "Oh?" Isabel raised an eyebrow. "Planning to revolutionize another field of medicine?" "Actually, I was thinking about college." Noah's enhanced intelligence flickered with something beautifully ordinary, teenage uncertainty. "I know I could probably teach graduate-level genetics, but I'd like to try being a regular student for a while, maybe study philosophy or literature, learn about the parts of humanity that can't be coded in DNA." Ethan felt a surge of pride that had nothing to do with genetic modifications or medical breakthroughs. "That," he said, "sounds like the wisest thing anyone has ever said." Emma looked up from her coloring book. "When I grow up, I want to be a doctor, like Mama and Daddy and Noah." "What kind of doctor?" Isabel asked. "The kind that makes sad people happy," Emma replied with 4-year-old certainty. "That's the most important kind." As the sun set over Lake Geneva, casting golden light across the water, Ethan realized that Emma was absolutely right. They had spent years curing diseases, extending life, enhancing human capability, but the most important healing had been much simpler. They had learned to be a family, the enhanced, the ordinary, the brilliant, and the simply loving. All of them together, making the world not just healthier, but happier. It was, Ethan thought, as he watched his son debate philosophy with his wife, while their daughter colored pictures of dancing antibodies. Exactly the future the world had needed all along.